Welcome back, film addicts and moguls. This is part 2 with Paul Heth. Paul, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be back.
Yes, and so I wanted to ask Paul, your story is so incredible. Can you share with us your start to your career path as a film producer and film executive?
Okay. Well, I think like any career, nothing was really planned. But again, I always had a love of the movies because I felt no matter what your economic circumstances are or where you have been or where you think you're going to go, we all have the common experience of what it means to have a favorite movie and going to the movies. And I would say that's probably one of the most common discussion points you can have with any person in the world is what's your favorite movie. So I served in the military, which was a blessing, and that got me an education. And I went first time enlisted, served in the tank, armor corps in the tanks, and then I went back. They paid for my college, and I went back as an armor officer, which was a great education, how to lead people, how to have discipline, how to be, execute and perform under very difficult circumstances, and so on and so forth. Teamwork, just a lot of great lessons for life. And then I left the service, and I ended up in Moscow, looking at one kind of business I did that didn't work out, and was with a friend in a bar, and we said, well, let's go to the movies, and we realized all the movie theaters were closed. So I got this crazy idea to start a movie theater, and we found a Radisson hotel that had a conference hall that had an old Soviet film projector in it.
Oh,
and
wow.
I said, yes, a water-cooled film projector, and then
wait, that's like the Cinema Paradiso, an old film projector. Oh my gosh,
yes.
Boy in a toy store, right?
The story even gets even more funny. So then, well, we need a movie, and I was friends with an agent out in Los Angeles that I met. Somehow I had a business card from an agent, a gentleman named Rick Bedingfield, and so I called Rick and said, Rick, I'm in Moscow. I need a movie, and you're not going to believe. So he said, well, look. The only movie I think we can get was a movie called The Plague, which was based on the Camus.
Wait, The Plague? Did you say The Plague? We're in the middle of the pandemic, and the first movie you had was The Plague? Oh my gosh!
Well, this is back in the night. It wasn't The Plague yet, but the Plague was a William Hurt movie, Raul Julia, and but because of litigation, it wasn't released anywhere. Robert Duvall, but we got the movie. And I didn't have any money, so I went to the local newspaper. I said, give me credit. I went to Coca-Cola. I said, I'm an officer and gentleman. My word means something. I'll pay you. And we opened this movie, and we billed it as the world premiere of The Plague. And by the way, it was a Syrian kind of very heavy, dramatic piece, movie. And we got Robert Duvall. I called his agent, and Robert called on the radio station, and we launched it. And this is very funny since we had a Russian-speaking audience as well as English. We didn't have subtitle or dub. I had one young guy who still works for me, by the way, because it had the event hall had audio system for they could broadcast conferences. So we got the script and we read the parts in Russian on headphones for our Russian audiences, and obviously English for our English-speaking audiences on the speakers.
That is so clever. You're just like funny. Creative. Oh my God. That is like, I mean, I see the movie, Paul. I'm going to bug you about that. You're going to be like, are we making the movie? Are we making the movie? Okay. So I can say, tell us about your lines.
So the young man read both the female and the male parts are very fun. But I couldn't believe on that fall Monday we had like a profit. And I couldn't believe there was a profit. And me and my partner at the time, we literally had a 2-room flat that we converted one room into a office, and one room we kind of took shifts on who would sleep. And very exciting time. We were very careful how do you answer the phone, and this was Golden Ring Entertainment, and like we're this and that. So we started that, and that went for a while. Then I started another small hotel cinema, and then I got my break with Eastman Kodak, where I met a Kodak executive in the lobby of the Sheremetyevo Moscow airport, and I said, look, prior to Perestroika, you guys used to sell millions of dollars of film for movies in the market to be on the film projectors, but that business is gone. why don't you invest in me? We can make a showcase cinema, and if it works, it'll bring back movie going. You can start selling that film again. So you're kind of making a marketing expense. And they actually, to my shock and amazement, they believed in me, and they invested like $2 million, and we opened a showcase cinema right in the middle of Moscow and Pushkin Square.
Oh my God.
I found in a conference hall from Investia, we made it, which was kind of like the national kind of news service for the country, and they had this hall that wasn't being used anymore, and we made the most grand, beautiful theater. And our first movie was The Rock with Sean Connery, which I got the Walt Disney Company, a gentleman named Mark Cerati, who ran Walt Disney International at the time, gave it to me. And was the first movie released in Russia with all the parts were dubbed in proper audience and digital sound and proper different speaking parts, all dubbed in Russian. Mr. Cerati had it dubbed in London with Russian actors. We had digital sound, and Mark, by the way, is now the president CEO of Cinemark after he was the chairman, I think, of the Walt Disney Internet Studio. He had a very fabulous career at Walt Disney. But when we opened the theater in the morning, we had lines for a kilometer, and when we played the film on a digital sound system in this hall that was just absolutely beautiful, 600, 700 seats. People applauded when the actor who portrayed Sean Connery spoke in that beautiful digital sound. People just couldn't believe it and started applauding, and that started kind of my exhibition career. And then the next big break is that we showed Titanic there.
Oh wow!
And Mr. Cameron came to our theater with some of the producers, John Landau, and we did that, and then it just went from there to there, and that was just fabulously. It was the highest grossing theater in the world. We ran film from 9 in the morning till 3 in the morning. It was just a fabulous, fast pace. I'd pick all the music for the lobby, and we introduced, like, which everybody takes for granted now, but like a coffee cafe on the second floor, and we introduced the first popcorn and Coke combos in the market, and it was just a really exciting time, and it was just really a fabulous time for me and really exciting. And then I wanted to expand the business, but Kodak didn't, for whatever reason, wanted to build more, and that's where I was out at Las Vegas. I went to a trade show there, which I couldn't afford to get in at first, and two gentlemen took I think pity on me and gave me tickets to go to lunch events where you could see all the movie stars and hear the studio executives. And those two gentlemen, Steve Gula, who runs Fox Searchlight, and Tim Warner, who just retired recently as chairman of Cinemark, two very seminal companies in our industry. And they became lifelong friends and mentors to this day. That I'm very close with both those gentlemen. And then I heard Mr. Redstone speak. He had just purchased Paramount, and he gave a very stirring speech about how he did and overcame all the odds. I think he outbid Mr. Diller for it at the time, Barry Diller. And then I got this idea to call Mr. Redstone's office, so I started calling his office to come meet him. I didn't know what I was going to present. I was just trying to get in the office.
Oh my God!
It took about 2 years, and I finally got an appointment to go to Boston to meet what I thought was him, but I actually ended up meeting Sherry Redstone, who took the meeting, and that has started really a tremendous friendship for me and someone who believed in me when others didn't. And Sherry and I and National Amusements, we started a business in the United States called City Bridge Ventures right at the same time. It was based on some of the things I was doing in Russia, like VIP seating and cafes and alcohol and different things that are now a part of the experience in movie going in America. And we launched a business in the West Coast, East Coast. That was very successful, called The Bridge. Then I sold my shares back to them, and then Miss Redstone and National Amusements backed me in Russia, and we started a fabulous company called Kinostar that just broke all box office records. We sold that business in 2000. Miss Redstone and I bought it out in 2009 from the other partner, National Amusements. Then we sold that in 2011. And then I bought another company in 2012 with some investment funds and some banks that I hold today called Karo. And around the same time, around 2005, I got the idea to start getting involved in producing. And so we formed a venture with Sony Pictures with Michael Linton, who now I think is chairman of Snap. But we started a local language production company called Monumental Pictures. My partner is a gentleman named Mikhail Schlicht, and we've produced over the years probably 15 or 18 local language films with studio partners, including Sony, Fox, and recently the Walt Disney Company. And now what we usually do is identify a great script, producer, local, like maybe network partner and director, and then we come handle like the theatrical distribution of worldwide rights, invest in it, kind of grow the business side of it. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, we started getting more hands-on the creative side, and we've been producing our own stuff. And matter of fact, our next big picture comes out in April called Row 19, which is a really cool franchise that we developed that coming to a theater this summer, hopefully in the non-Russian markets. So I just been very, very blessed, and I'm very active. I believe passionately in cinema. I always tell people that when I first went to Russia, everyone in Russia told me that cinema was over with, that people wanted to watch movies at home. They had rampant piracy, so everyone had VCRs and watching these pirated copies of all the great movies. And I said that's not correct. That's malarkey. And people want it. There's nothing like watching a movie in a theater with all the best technology and all the collective emotion of an audience watching a picture together. And I think that I'd be very careful with the streamers now that not to throw away a $50 billion industry because you're trying to be in the commodity business of filling time on the screen. Everyone only has a certain amount of time to watch TV at home, and that time will dissipate as the COVID dissipates. People want to get out to the restaurants. They want to hold hands in the park. They want to go to the theater. And, I think that business isn't come roaring back. In Russia, we reopened in August, our theaters. And even now we're having pictures open to $30 million in 10 days. We're already almost normalized. I just see a great future for motion picture. I believe that the best storytellers want their stories told on the big screen. And I think audiences, we talk about 200 million people signed up for Netflix. That's nothing compared to the billions of people who bought tickets in 2019 and 20 before COVID. That is the biggest, on-demand platform in the world. I think it'll come roaring back. And, I believe passion in that business, and I believe in the creative wonder of storytelling on the big screen. So we're very happy to both provide that venue for people to enjoy movies and also to invest in movies themselves. So I've been very blessed and look forward to more achievement in both those areas.
Yeah, I believe that, a lot of people have their first dates in movie theaters. So, that's something I think that, if you're going to go on a first date, something that it's at a theater, people feel comfortable, there's lots of people around, or maybe they're you got 2 seats empty next to you, so you feel more comfortable. But yeah, first dates, girl parties, wedding parties, a bachelor, groups of people like to see things. And then going to see, a big animation film with your grandparents, or your mom and your kids, with other kids, I'm with you on that. But, I think there's room for all,
100%. That's the thing I always tell people, that there's always been 24/7, hundreds of channels showing movies and TV, great TV, for our whole life. And the point is, but people have so many hours in a day. And I think what streaming is happening is they're cannibalizing each other. And it's interesting, my children who also love going to movies, but my son, for example, when he gets to Netflix and various sources, he immediately looks for a movie that he remembers from a theatrical experience. He'll watch all the Adam Sandler stuff that he watched first in the theater. And I just think that I'd be very careful, the producers and our colleagues at the studios, and I have this argument or these talks with my colleagues frequently, that be careful, because the magic, the value of creating a theatrical experience, that value makes that the film that you enjoy, it carries a certain creative value onto the next platforms, including in the home on TV. And I think if you cut out the theater, I just think what happens is it becomes a scroll and commodity. And I don't think Matrix or Harry Potter or all these great franchises would be what they'd be if they were just a TV enterprise, in my opinion. And I think we're going to find that out. And I think there's a way to do both. And I think that there's been a lot of creativity on both sides to try to find a way forward with the terrible restrictions of COVID. But I think we do have the magic pill of the vaccines and social distancing and things that we're learning. I do think there's going to be an opportunity for filmmakers and all the filmmakers I know globally. Hey man, they want that. They want to be at the Palace of the Arts at Cannes. They want to be at the Dolby Theater. They want to be in my October theater, on Tushkaya, which is our big premiere theater in Moscow, and see 2,000 people watching a film in bated breath. What is going to happen on that screen? They don't want to just be in the living room. And I think there's magic to that business, and I don't think that there's good return on that business. I think we're going to see that again. So I'm doubling down. Where my company and I we're making more investments even now in the down period as people are nervous about the future of our sector. So we believe it's an opportunity, and we'll see who's right at the end of the day. But I think we feel pretty confident.
Our moguls from Growth Guide to Investment are like, ooh, should we invest in cinema? Should we invest in cinema? Netflix, Hulu, yeah. And then all our filmmakers who are asking, that there's a lot of investors out there too. Like some of them are wary right now because, So, what would you say to a filmmaker that is looking to make a film? Any advice for a young filmmaker?
I'm still a relatively young man, but in my career, and I've been now in the motion picture business in 1993, that there's never been more content being produced, being shot on film, regardless of what its viewing platform will be, than ever. Now, there's such a demand for content, and let's be honest that there's a lot of opportunity for content, but there's just limited people that are unique and have a special vision to tell that story. And I'd say that, first of all, as a first-time filmmaker, wherever you can get investment, you got to get it because it's so hard to attract as a first time. You know what I mean? And it's interesting. In my company, we have a very vibrant arts division where we show theatrically movies from festivals from all over the world, like Fear Cinema, the Jewish Film Festival, the Armenian Film Festival, the Under 25 film. Like we try to find product that doesn't necessarily have a theatrical marketing business release, but was made by some young filmmakers. So that's grown now to 10% of our business from like 1%, and that's a sizable number. I'm understanding the gross amount of our business, but I say that because audiences also like to enjoy films in that medium. But as a first-time filmmaker, just find a way to get that budget and get it made. You know what I mean? Like the other day, and I won't use any names, but my partner and I were pitched by a young filmmaker who had a great story about what happens with a cast of 4 or 5 people in a house and very low budget. And we were so excited by this passion of this guy that we're trying to figure out a way to do it. So that gentleman maybe doesn't have as many options as someone who has a track record. And I see that the great filmmakers, the large-scale commercial filmmakers, meaning that have a business following, can make for both both theatrically, and for streaming at the home. But I still believe strongly in the theatrical sector. So as a filmmaker, you do it any way you can, But we're even looking at films shot on iPhones and things like that. There's a whole world of content out there but you just got to find a way to get it produced and out and packaged. In terms of investing, I would be very careful. I think on the cinema side, a lot of cinema companies that were public prior to the pandemic carried very high debt loads and didn't have a capital reserve, and I think are very stressed with their fixed costs. My company and my shareholders, we had to be very disciplined because we work in emerging markets where you have to be more careful of your cost of capital. And in an emerging market, you're more open to economic events that like the run on currency or the price of oil. You're more sensitive than you are in mature markets. So we had to run a very disciplined business. Because of that discipline, in the COVID area, we didn't have to lay off a single person. We didn't have to be stressed on our balance sheet because we built up reserves. I think sometimes a lot of people, when it's an easy stock market and they can borrow money very inexpensively, they didn't look after those niceties as they should have, and now those companies are stressed. So I'd be very careful investing in public cinema stocks. But the companies that are focused on entertainment, I do think that a lot of them, like the big studios, a big portion of their profit was from the amusement parks and theatrical. And I think that those businesses, in my opinion, will return as COVID dissipates. I think there's room for both. The at-home viewing of streaming, which, by the way, I think streaming is more problematic for the cable TV operators, which in many places is the same company. I think you'll find money migrate from the cable bill to a smaller streaming bill. But I still think people want to go out and see the great epic pictures on the big screen.
Yeah, and then I love that you gave some advice on some qualities. Could you kind of just share like the qualities that stand out to you? Like if someone's looking for a mentor, or like I loved what you said, and if you could just share that again, like your qualities that.
Well, I think that first of all, my grandfather and who growing up, in my home situation was a single parent household. My mom was a cashier at a bank and tried to raise 4 kids. And I actually left home very, very early for economic and other reasons. And of course, I most admired was my grandfather, who came to America from Dublin and worked very hard and raised a family of 9 children, including my mom.
Oh wow, and 9 kids! Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. So you're Irish, nice.
Yeah, and with a high school education. But his big thing was that, and again, this sounds very corny, but I just say that he felt that being born in America, now I say the same thing to young Russian people when I speak, but that you have so many opportunities with technology and the ability to communicate and the ability to I wanted to focus on that, to make connections. You can make really direct connections with people, and technology's made that easy, but there's still that personal connection. Try to find someone that, whether it be in your industry or their standards or the way they conduct themselves, as someone to emulate. And, my heroes, like, I was so respected with Mr. Redstone when he took a company of 3 or 4 or 5 drive-ins and built it into this substantial media holding with, theaters and motion picture studios and cable TV companies and billboard companies and book companies and publishing. But I admired very much how he built that business. And of course, I ended up out of that having a mentor in one of the great business relationships of my career and friendships with Miss Redstone, who's been very helpful. And then someone like Steve Gula, who runs Fox Searchlight now, who helped me early in my career, will always take my call, or Tim Warner, who built NATO, which is the trade association for motion picture in America, and ran Cinemark. So I tried to find people I emulated, the same when I was in service. So try to find people, and I always can tell someone, the most important people I've met, they put their phone down, they're very prompt, and they very respectful and treat their time is very important. So, I find that you can tell someone that those are qualities I like, that attentive, prompt, honest, forthright, but very courteous, very respectful of your time. Don't try to look down upon people and things like that. And these are little things that sound like simple things, but you'd be surprised. And oftentimes I'll be in a meeting with someone who's a vice president for the moment, and they'll take calls in the meeting or not be focused. And at that moment I say, I probably won't do business with these guys.
Oh my gosh! Yes, yes. I had a meeting with an agent, and someone referred me to it. Was a big agent. It was a female agent. She was on the phone the whole time, and I just sat there, and I was like, I was horrified. I didn't know what to do. I literally sat there in silence, and it was awful. Oh my god!
I'd say good for that person, and not say they're a bad person, but and I was recently in a meeting in New York right before the pandemic. But let's just say, now I don't want to pick a composite. One of the most wealthy men in the world in his 40s. That gentleman, I could tell what the meeting was like at 9 o'clock. He was there at 8:55. He was briefed. He was absolutely focused, and this was a man that's overseeing a very massive enterprise. And I find that the more successful people are, the more focused and respectful they are of your time. But make sure you're respectful of their time. So come with a plan, come with a purpose, make sure you know your business, make sure that you have a start and end, that you listen carefully. It's almost more that you're going there to listen than to speak, and then get on with your business and be respectful of time. But I've always, and I try to teach this to my son, like my son wants to be the great tennis player. So I said, let's look at all the tennis players. Who has the best work ethic? Who speaks to people well? How do they treat you? And then he found his hero. So he unbelievably admires Rafa Nadal. So my son wears his clothes, but it's very important.
Who does he like? Which tennis players? Rafa and who?
That you feel right. My son likes a player named Rafa Nadal. Rafael Nadal is a Spanish player who's just an icon in the sport. But he likes him because he works so hard and he's always respectful to the people on the court. And and there's also some bad boy tennis players. So I was glad that my son was kind of following, try to emulate people that have all the qualities that we need in life. To be considerate, to have manners, to return phone calls. And I always tell young people, hey, if you're going to call on me, better please have a plan. What's the outcome you're looking for? Follow up. Be ready to go. Sometimes people show up and they don't really have a plan. They don't really have a journey that they want to take you on. They haven't thought it out. So be considerate. So I think that's very important that you think things through and don't be afraid to fall on your face too. Like I kind of shudder now at some ideas that I had, but I presented them forcefully and passionately. And you shoot your shot, and then you move on to the next thing. But try to emulate and be around people that you want to be like for the right reasons. And I find that if you can do that, people want to help people, and you'd be surprised that I called on people that hugely successful. They took my call, and they saw me, and you just got to keep trying and trying, and break through and stick to your principles.
Oh, I just wanted to say, just thank you for that. That is so inspiring, and it's just beautiful. And I'm grateful you're on my show today. And I just want to tell everyone that's listening, from my moguls to the film addicts that are listening, is that Paul Heth is an Army veteran, and he's a graduate of University of Tampa. But I just want to say, University of Tampa honored him with the Entrepreneurial Service Award. And I just say, he deserves that. You can hear how he speaks with compassion. He himself is kind and nice, and he came on my show. So thank you. And then also in 2018, the University of New Haven awarded Heth with an honored Doctor of Business Administration degree. So just thank you for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, and good luck to everyone out there. And I'm sure I'll see some of you guys in the theater or your movies there. And for you moguls, just look at be careful. And, I always tell also people, don't get caught in the euphoria of a moment. Like, look at things, the basics of what you're trying to invest in. What is the company trying to do? And always do things in the long term. So, and I think there's so much opportunity in the world. We tend to focus on the clouds, but not the sun rays. And there's so much opportunity out there. So good luck to everyone. And I wish you guys all a safe and healthy week.
Yeah, and where can they catch up to? Like, do you have a Facebook page or where they can see your movies that are coming out? Row 19, right? Where do they go to find out?
No, I personally kind of don't market myself like that in a sense. But look for our movies. Row 19 will come out in April, and then in Russia, my company is called Karo, and then our production company is called Monumental. So I don't try to do press and things like for myself. I do a little bit on Instagram and LinkedIn. I don't do Facebook. Which my son is always on to me about. And by the way, my son is the big social media guy, so he has a very, very big following on TikTok and on Instagram. So his name is Henry Heth, so look for him. But what a pleasure to speak with you guys, and God bless everyone, and I wish you all good luck, and you'll find success if you just keep pushing forward.
Thank you so much, and thank you, moguls and film acts, for tuning in. Until next week, wishing you a happy and beautiful New Year. Stay healthy.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you, ma'am.